$43,000. That is the average amount a pension retiree permanently leaves behind by getting just one of these 7 decisions wrong. And the most expensive detail is that almost every single one of these mistakes looks like the responsible choice at the exact moment you make it. If you have spent 20, 25, 30 years in a job with a defined benefit pension, public school teaching, state government, law enforcement, firefighting, federal service, you did something most Americans never pulled off. You stayed. You built the years. You passed on every recruiter who called with a shinier package. And somewhere in that process, you assembled a picture of retirement, a guaranteed monthly check, a floor that holds everything else up, income that doesn't depend on what the market did last Tuesday. That picture is real, but it has gaps in it. Not because pensions are broken, because nobody sits you down before you retire and walks you through the 7 specific places where pension retirees lose money quietly, permanently, and with zero warning on the paperwork you signed. The financial advice industry is built almost entirely around 401k investors. The pension world is a different country with different rules, different traps, and a completely different set of ways to get it wrong. And almost none of the content out there is written for you. Here is something structural you need to understand before we get into the mistakes. A pension plan administrator's job is to pay your benefit accurately. That is the entire scope of their responsibility. Their job is not to optimize your total retirement income, not to minimize your tax burden, not to protect your spouse if you die first, not to coordinate your pension with Social Security, not to prepare you for what happens to a fixed check when inflation runs for 25 years. All of that is your job, and most pension systems provide zero guidance on any of it. The information exists. The rules are documented in public filings, but they live in actuarial tables and IRS publications written for plan administrators, not for a person staring at a retirement election form they have one shot at submitting correctly. The system is not designed to hide this. It just isn't designed to surface it for you. That gap is where the $43,000 goes. I want you to hold one image for the rest of this video. Picture a river that splits into 2 channels right at the edge of retirement. The first channel is wide and fast. That's your pension check. 30 years of work built that current. The years did it for you. But the second channel is narrower, and whether water flows through it depends entirely on about 7 decisions you make in the final months before you retire. Most pension retirees watch the first channel fill up and assume they've covered everything. The 7 mistakes in this video are the 7 invisible valves on that second channel. Get them wrong, and you lose flow permanently. Get them right, and your total retirement income over a 25-year retirement can be $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 higher from the same pension, the same employer, the same fund you already have. Let me put real numbers on this. Every projection in this video uses a conservative 6% annual return on any invested assets. That is below the 100-year historical average of the S&P 500 and accounts for a moderate allocation appropriate for someone near retirement. Take a public school teacher in Ohio, 30 years of service, final salary of $68,000 per year, retiring at 58. Ohio state teachers' retirement system uses a 2.2% benefit multiplier per year of service. 30 years times 2.2 equals 66% replacement. Annual pension, approximately $44,800. Monthly, roughly $3,700 before taxes. That is a real foundation. But watch what one variable does. Scenario 1. This teacher takes all the default choices, makes no optimization decisions, and never learns about the 7 mistakes in this video. Annual pension income, $44,800. Nothing catastrophic happens. Just time passing quietly in the wrong direction. Scenario 2. Same teacher, same pension, same retirement date. But she learns and fixes just 3 of the 7 mistakes before filing. Total annual retirement income after optimization, approximately $59,000, $14,200 more per year. Over 20 years, that gap is $284,000, not from a better investment, not from working longer, from knowing where the second channel runs. Mistake number 1 is the most mathematically expensive item on this list, and it affects roughly 2 million Americans right now who have no idea it applies to them. The Social Security coordination trap. If you worked a job where Social Security taxes were not withheld from your paycheck, most state and local government positions, many school districts, there is a federal rule called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP. It reduces your Social Security benefit, not eliminates it, reduces it. The Social Security Administration's own 2025 data puts the average WEP reduction at $587 per month. That is $7,044 per year. Over a 20-year retirement, that is $140,800 subtracted from what every retirement calculator you have ever used predicted you would receive. The trap is not the WEP rule itself. The trap is timing. Almost nobody explains this to pension employees before they retire. You file for Social Security, expecting the number you watched grow on your My Social Security statement for years. The check arrives $500 lower. By that point, you have already made your housing decision, your healthcare decision, your spending plan, all calibrated around a projection that was never going to be accurate for you. Here is the table. Same teacher, same pension, same Social Security earnings history. Only one variable, whether she knew about the WEP before retirement. Person A understood the WEP, delayed filing to age 70, and structured other income around the reduction. Social Security benefit after WEP. Approximately $13,200 per year. Total annual income. Pension plus Social Security. $58,000. Person B did not know about the WEP, filed at 62 expecting the full projected benefit, and built her monthly budget around a number that would never arrive. Social Security after early filing reduction plus full WEP application. Approximately $4,800 per year. Total annual income. $49,600. That is an $8,400 annual gap from one piece of information the SSA publishes in a publicly available document that almost no pension plan administrator hands to employees before they file. Over 20 years, that gap compounds to $168,000 in cumulative lost income. Not lost to a bad investment. Lost to the space between information that exists and information that gets delivered to the people it affects most. Mistake number 2. This is the one that gets decided in about 4 minutes on a retirement election form and cannot be undone. The survivor benefit miscalculation. When you retire from a pension, you get a menu of payment options. Maximum benefit, you receive the highest possible monthly payment, and when you die, your spouse receives nothing from the pension going forward. Joint and 100% survivor, you receive a reduced monthly amount, commonly 8 to 15% less, but your spouse receives your full benefit for life if you die first. Here is how this gets wrong. You are 58 years old and in reasonable health. Your spouse is in her mid-50s and also healthy. You look at the reduction, $150, $200 a month, and it feels like insurance for a scenario that seems distant. You take the maximum benefit. You net more each month. This feels logical. It is catastrophically wrong when you model it across both life expectancies. Maximum benefit, $3,700 per month. If you die at 72, your spouse, now 69, loses $3,700 per month at exactly the age when her earned income is gone and her healthcare costs are rising. With full survivor benefit at a 15% reduction, $3,145 per month while you're alive. If she lives to 87, the survivor benefit pays out $566,000 over her remaining 18 years. That income does not exist if you check the maximum benefit box. I want to introduce someone we are going to come back to throughout this video. His name is David. He is 58 years old, 31 years as a firefighter in the Pacific Northwest, final salary of $72,000 per year. His pension replaces 68% of that, roughly $49,000 annually. He is married to Linda, 55. He took the maximum benefit option without modeling the survivor math. He filed for Social Security before anyone explained the government pension offset to him. Monthly, things feel fine right now. He has not run the numbers on what happens if he dies first. We will come back to David at the end. Subscribe if this is landing. I cover this kind of specific numbers-first analysis every single week, and if you don't subscribe, the algorithm will genuinely stop surfacing these videos to you. Mistake number 3 is where most people get blindsided by a decision they thought was already settled. Here is the diagnosis most pension retirees quietly make somewhere in year 2 or year 3 of retirement. The check feels smaller than expected. The budget is tighter than planned. And the conclusion they reach is, my pension wasn't big enough. I should have worked longer. I should have pushed for a higher final salary. That diagnosis feels logical. It is wrong. And because it's wrong, it points towards solutions that don't fix anything. The actual problem is not the pension amount. The actual problem is that 3 of the 7 mistakes in this video quietly drain a pension that would have been perfectly adequate if the original check arrived fully intact. What gets extracted from it invisibly, what gets taxed out of it unexpectedly, and what inflation does to it silently over 25 years. That is the bottleneck. All 3 of those mechanisms are addressable before you retire. None of them require earning more money or working longer. They require knowing they exist. David knows this feeling. 2 years into retirement, his $49,000 annual pension feels more constrained than he expected. He attributed it to spending more freely in the early retirement years, which is a documented pattern. He hasn't looked at what else is happening to his income. By the end of this video, he will have a specific number attached to each remaining mistake and a set of decisions he can still make. But first, mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is the one that gets framed as a choice between 2 equal options when it is actually a decision with a mathematically dominant answer for most people, and the industry has a structural incentive to push you toward the wrong one, the lump sum trap. Many pension plans now offer a lump sum option at retirement. Instead of receiving a monthly payment for life, you receive a single payment up front, typically calculated as the present value of your projected lifetime annuity at a specific discount rate. The pitch: take the money, invest it yourself, control the outcome. It sounds like autonomy. For most pension retirees, it is a wealth destruction event in slow motion. Here is what the math actually shows. A public sector worker with a pension paying $2,800 per month for life, a present value at retirement of approximately $425,000 at a 4% discount rate, takes the lump sum option. She receives $425,000. She invests it conservatively at 6% annually and draws $40,000 per year in withdrawals. After 20 years, her portfolio has grown substantially. On paper, this looks competitive. But here is what actually happens in practice. The Employee Benefit Research Institute tracked retirement outcomes for lump sum recipients over a 15-year study period. Workers who took lump sum distributions were significantly more likely to exhaust their savings than those who stayed on the monthly annuity. The reason is not poor investment performance. It is spending behavior in the first 5 years post-retirement, when the money feels large, liquid, and accessible. The average lump sum recipient in that data spent down at nearly double the rate of annuity recipients in the first decade. The monthly pension is a spending constraint built into the structure of the income itself. The lump sum removes that constraint. For most people, that removal is not freedom. It is a behavioral liability. The only situation where the lump sum makes structural sense. You have a serious health condition that shortens your expected lifespan, you have no spouse or dependents, and you have documented evidence that you will invest the funds without touching them for at least a decade. If all 3 of those conditions are not simultaneously true, the monthly annuity wins the math across virtually every historical scenario. The industry does not explain this clearly because lump sums generate rollover business and advisory fees. The annuity you leave inside the pension system generates nothing for anyone advising you. That is not a conspiracy. It is a revenue structure that shapes which information gets emphasized during the most financially consequential conversation most pension retirees ever have. Mistake number 4. This is the one that blindsides people most viscerally because the damage shows up as a tax bill nobody modeled. The pension income taxation shock. A pension is not tax-free income. In most cases, it is fully taxable as ordinary income at both the federal level and the state level, depending on where you live. This is documented and public. But the gap between knowing it abstractly and feeling it in the first April after retirement is significant enough that it earns its own entry on this list. Here is the specific scenario that catches people. A retiree receives $3,700 per month in pension income. They also collect Social Security. Federal tax rules state that up to 85% of Social Security income becomes taxable when your combined income, pension income plus interest, dividends, and half of Social Security, exceeds $34,000 for a single filer. Most pension retirees cross that threshold easily. Take a single retiree with $44,800 in annual pension income and $12,000 in annual Social Security benefits. Combined income calculation, $44,800 plus $6,000, which is half of Social Security, equals $50,800. That is well above the $34,000 threshold. Result: 85% of Social Security, $10,200, is now also taxable income, stacked on top of the pension. Total taxable income, $55,000. At the 22% federal bracket, the annual tax bill is approximately $9,400. Monthly, that is about $783 per month in federal taxes, before any state taxes apply. Most people planning retirement see the gross pension number and plan their monthly expenses around it. Then year one arrives and the first estimated quarterly tax payment lands, and the cash flow feels genuinely different from every projection. Not slightly different, measurably, disruptively different. The fix is straightforward, but it has to happen before retirement. Estimate your combined tax burden, request federal withholding directly from your pension check during the election process, and base every spending plan on the net amount. 30 states also tax pension income partially or fully, according to Tax Foundation 2025 data. Knowing your state's treatment before setting your budget is not optional. It is the floor the entire retirement math sits on. David in the Pacific Northwest benefits from Washington state having no state income tax. He has that one structural advantage. But his federal situation mirrors exactly what I just described, and he has been building his monthly budget off the gross pension number for 2 full years. He hasn't modeled the actual tax liability. We will come back to David. Mistake number 5 is the quietest one on the list and the most mathematically inevitable. The inflation erosion trap. A fixed pension check does not adjust for inflation. Some public pensions include a small cost of living adjustment, typically 1 to 2% annually. The Bureau of Labor Statistics recorded cumulative inflation of 26% over the 6 years between 2019 and 2025 alone. The long-run average annual inflation rate in the United States over the past 30 years runs approximately 2.8%, according to BLS historical data. Here is what that does to a retiree who starts collecting $3,700 per month at 58 years old. At a 2.8% annual inflation rate, with no pension COLA adjustment, the purchasing power of that check after 10 years is equivalent to approximately $2,780 in today's dollars. After 20 years, approximately $2,090. After 25 years, still well inside the life expectancy range for a healthy 58-year-old, given that the Social Security Administration's actuarial tables project the average 65-year-old today will live to approximately 84. The real value of that monthly check has fallen to the equivalent of roughly $1,800 in today's purchasing power. $3,700 on the check, $1,800 in real buying power. The pension didn't change. The expenses did. The response most people have to this: that's a problem I'll deal with later, in my 70s when I'm actually living it. That response is exactly why this mistake belongs on this list. The only time you can build a hedge against pension inflation erosion is before or at retirement, when you can still structure other income sources around the fixed base. Taxable accounts, Roth distributions, part-time income, delayed Social Security to lock in the inflation-adjusted maximum benefit. By the time you are 75 and the erosion is visible in your monthly cash flow, the structural decisions that could have offset it are 20 years behind you. David retired at 58. He has 26 years of potential retirement ahead of him if his health holds. At the inflation trajectory above, his $49,000 annual pension will have the purchasing power of approximately $22,000 by the time he is 84. Not zero. Not a catastrophe in isolation. But combined with the WEP reduction he didn't account for, the survivor benefit gap he left open, and the tax drag he hasn't modeled, the picture is materially different from what he expected when he signed the retirement paperwork. None of these mistakes are irreversible at his stage. The next two are the ones that actually have a deadline. Stay with me because mistake number 6 is the one that catches people who did everything right up until the last 36 months. Mistake number 6 is about a number calculated inside the pension system itself, and most early retirees never know what it costs them until they are already collecting a permanently reduced check. The early retirement reduction trap. Most pension plans are built around what actuaries call a normal retirement age, often between 60 and 65 depending on the plan. If you retire before that age, your monthly benefit is permanently reduced through an actuarial adjustment. The specific reduction varies by plan, but a typical structure cuts your benefit by 3 to 5% for every year you retire before normal retirement age. Retire 5 years early at a 4% annual reduction. Your benefit is 20% lower for life. Permanently. Not as a penalty that expires. Not as a gap you close later. As the fixed baseline on which every cost of living adjustment you ever receive is calculated. The retiree who accepts a 20% reduction at 58 and then collects for 27 years has permanently surrendered 20% of every single check for the rest of their life. But there is a second layer almost nobody explains, the final average salary calculation. Most pension plans calculate your benefit using the average salary of your final 3 or final 5 years of employment. This is called the final average salary period. What this means in practice, the year you retire is the year your benefit is locked permanently against that average. If you received a meaningful raise in year 29 and retire at the end of that year, that raise has been in effect for less than 12 months. It barely moves the 3-year average. Work through year 30, and that raise is now incorporated into 2 of your 3 final years. The average goes up, the lifetime benefit goes up permanently. Here's the specific math. A teacher whose final 3-year average salary at retirement in year 29 is $65,000 receives an annual pension of 30 years times 2.2% times $65,000 equals $42,900 per year. A teacher who works 1 additional year with a 4% raise, bringing final year salary to $68,000, has a final 3-year average of approximately $66,300. Annual pension, 31 years, times 2.2% times $66,300 equals $45,256 per year. That is $2,356 more per year. Over 25 years, $58,900 in additional lifetime income from 1 additional year worked against the right part of the calculation. Most people making the retirement timing decision are modeling what they will do in retirement, not what that last year does to the benefit formula. Mistake number 7 requires the most surgical precision and is worth the most money per hour of research of anything on this list. The retirement date timing trap. Most pension systems update accrued benefits, COLA adjustments, and benefit calculation factors on specific calendar dates, commonly January 1st or the anniversary of your hire date. The month you retire determines whether you capture a full year of benefit accrual or lose it permanently. Retiring in November versus waiting until January 2nd of the following year can mean the difference between 29 full years of credit and 30 full years, even if the actual time worked is only 2 months apart on the calendar. In a plan calculating benefits at 2.2% per year of service, 1 additional full year of credit on a $68,000 final salary is worth $1,496 per year in additional lifetime pension income. Over 20 years, $29,920 from the decision to file in January instead of November. There is also the transition year Roth conversion window, one of the highest value tax decisions available to pension retirees, and the one almost nobody mentions during retirement planning conversations. The calendar year in which you retire is in most cases your lowest income year. You earned a salary for part of the year and pension income for the remainder. For many people, combined income in that transition year falls below the threshold that would make a Roth IRA conversion prohibitively expensive in any other year. Converting a portion of a traditional 401k or IRA to Roth at a temporarily lower tax rate in that window locks in tax-free growth for the next 2 decades on money that would otherwise be taxed at full ordinary income rates every time you withdraw it. The IRS does not send a letter explaining that your transition year is your best Roth conversion window. Your pension plan administrator is not tracking your total income picture. The HR representative who processed your retirement paperwork is processing 30 other people the same week. Nobody has a structural incentive to surface this information for you except someone you specifically hire to look for it. Now let me close David's story because I left him in a specific place and he has earned a resolution. David is 58 years old, 31 years as a firefighter, $49,000 per year in pension income, maximum benefit option with no survivor protection, married to Linda who is 55. He retired in October, not knowing his plan's accrual calendar updated on January 1st. That decision cost him 1 full year of benefit credit, roughly $1,200 per year permanently. He has not modeled his federal tax liability, which is running approximately $7,500 per year, higher than his mental budget assumed. He did not coordinate with Social Security about the government pension offset, and Linda's survivor benefit picture is materially worse than both of them understood when he signed the retirement election form. Here is what David actually did after working through this information. First, he submitted a request to his pension plan for a full review of post-retirement survivor benefit options. His plan allowed a spousal protection addition within a limited window after initial retirement. He locked in a partial survivor benefit for Linda at a cost of $190 per month deducted from his pension. Not the full joint and 100% option he originally declined, but a structured middle ground that eliminates the income cliff Linda would have faced. Second, he went to SSA.gov, pulled his full Social Security statement, and used the SSA's own GPO calculator to model the actual impact on Linda's survivor benefit. Linda had her own Social Security work history from before the marriage. The combined picture was different from what they had assumed, and the filing strategy they had planned changed as a result. Third, he requested federal tax withholding be added directly to his monthly pension check. The estimated quarterly payment problem ended. His household now plans around the net monthly number, not the gross. 3 months into that adjustment, the budget stress that had been quietly building since year 1 of retirement resolved. 3 decisions. None of them required extraordinary effort. All of them required knowing which institution to call and which specific question to ask. Here are 3 practical actions, calibrated specifically to where most pension retirees or near retirees are right now. First, go to SSA.gov this week and pull your full Social Security statement. Search the page explicitly for the words WEP and GPO. Then locate and read the SSA's free WEP fact sheet. It is 4 pages, available on their website. Use the WEP calculator in the Tools section to get an adjusted benefit estimate that is more accurate than the general projection on your statement. This takes 40 minutes. For anyone with a public pension, it is worth knowing before you file, not after. The calculation cannot be undone once you are in payment. Second, before submitting any retirement paperwork, call your pension plan's benefits office and ask these 2 questions exactly. 1. What is the specific date each calendar year on which my accrued service credit and benefit calculation factors update? 2. Does my plan allow any post-retirement adjustment to my survivor benefit election? And if so, what are the conditions and deadlines? These are factual administrative questions with specific answers. You will not receive them unless you ask. Most plan administrators will answer both in one phone call. Third, in the 12 months before your planned retirement date, spend 1 session with a fee-only financial planner and ask specifically about the Roth conversion window in your transition year. Bring your most recent tax return and your pension benefit estimate letter. 1 session, 1 specific question. The answer may be worth $20,000 to $40,000 in reduced lifetime tax exposure on money that will otherwise be taxed at full ordinary income rates for the next 2 decades. The National Association of Personal Financial Advisors maintains a directory of fee-only planners at napfa.org. The session costs between $200 and $400. The math on what it potentially recovers starts at 5 figures. Here is what I want you to sit with before you close this video. Every month you spend collecting a pension with unresolved WEP or GPO exposure, uncorrected survivor benefit structure, unmodeled tax liability, or a retirement date that missed your plan's annual accrual cutoff is a month where that money is gone and will not come back. These are not future problems to address when they become urgent. They become urgent after the window to fix them has already closed. The $43,000 number from the opening of this video is not a worst-case scenario. It is what a single unaddressed mistake costs across a normal retirement horizon. Most pension retirees on this list are sitting with 2 or 3 unaddressed mistakes, not one. The math on that is not small. The pension was built by your years. The second channel is built by your decisions. The years are done. The decisions are not. If this video changed the way you think about even one of these 7 mistakes, subscribe. I put out this kind of specific numbers-first content every single week. Real rules, real calculations, no generic advice. And if you leave without subscribing, the algorithm will genuinely stop showing these videos to you. The next one may be the $43,000 you haven't lost yet.